Editing. The purpose.
Editing is the manipulation and arrangement of video shots. In other words, taking this clip and creating a story in your timeline.
It's as simple as a book. With editing, you create a beginning, middle and an end, aka a linear narrative. For example, Shrek. This has a beginning, middle and an end.
You can also find films where the beginning isn't actually at the start of the film. For example, Deadpool begins in the middle, then goes back to the beginning, and then plays through towards the end. This is also known as a non-linear narrative.
To tell these stories, editors often use a variety of forms of editing. Two common examples are fast-paced editing, regularly seen in action films such as Fast and Furious. This keeps the viewers engaged on the edge of their seats. And then there's slow-paced editing, regularly seen in horrors such as Insidious or Halloween to build up tension.
The development. As previously mentioned, there's different kinds of editing. One of the first used forms of editing was called in-camera editing. This technique involves shooting the sequence in a strict order on set, instead of editing the shots into a film sequence during post-production. For example, here we can see the director asking me to stop my actions while he changes the camera angle, and then asking me to continue what I was doing, opposed to filming the complete action multiple times from different angles, and then cutting between them in post-production.
A noticeable use of in-camera editing was used by the director Alfred Hitchcock in his film Rope, released in 1948. This minimises the equipment used, as all you really need is a camera. Another editing technique is montage editing. This is where a series of short shots are sequenced to condense space, time and information. Basically, a compilation of different clips piled together to create a video of a certain subject.
For example, here's top 100 best Call of Duty clips, best ever quickscope montage. In the 1930s, Slavko Vorkapich was one of the best known montage specialists. Some examples of his work include Romeo and Juliet in 1936 and Maytime in 1937. However, something like this Rocky II montage is a more recent use of montages, released in 1979.
This manipulates time, showing his progression of training with the motivational track. An original use of editing, allowing the audience to follow the action, is in a film called Life of an American Fireman, released in 1903, pioneered by Edwin Porter. As you can see here, it follows the firefighter going up the ladder, and then as he enters the room, the camera angle switches. This allows the audience to follow what is going on in the action.
To keep the visuals interesting, shot variation is commonly used. This is a technique that uses multiple camera shots, such as long shots to establish the location, mid shots to frame objects or characters, and close-ups to bring attention to a particular part of the scene. In early filmmaking, Edwin S. Porter used this technique in his movie The Great Train Robbery, released in 1903. As you can see here, it shows inside the house to outside, with a variety of long shots, close-up, etc.
Next, way before digital editing was possible on computers, analog editing was the norm. This is where you took film out of a camera, once done shooting, and cut it into different parts using a splicer. They'd then paste it onto different parts of the film to create the cutaways. It then had to be developed through a machine. Sounds simple, doesn't it?
Finally, digital editing. This is the most common form of editing nowadays. Even the video you're watching right now has been digitally edited. Why is it easier? Basically, because a lot of it's already done for you. It is now much more advanced, as there's a lot more creative techniques, effects and transitions to be used. But we'll talk about those later. Well-known programs used for digital editing include Premiere Pro, Sony Vegas, Final Cut Pro and iMovie.
Techniques. A common editing technique is seamless or invisible editing, which is a vital technique to use to make your work easier to follow. This is where the cuts between shots correspond to the action, making the narrative more obvious without any interruptions. An example of seamless editing seen here in this shot from Stranger Things shows Billy rolling over in one shot from this angle and still rolling over seamlessly from a different angle.
The 180-degree rule. This technique is one of the oldest in cinematography. It refers to an imaginary straight line drawn between two objects in a scene. Basically, you want to keep your camera on the same side of the line, otherwise you'd have crossed it and broken the rule. However, this rule can be changed by resetting the line by inserting a neutral shot, then resetting the line in a new shot.
Transitions. Many transitions are used in editing. Our first example is the cut transition. This is the most common transition used in films to allow the audience to see action from different perspectives. An example of this shown here, where you can see the enemies from a distance, and then it cuts to a close-up of them from a different perspective. The cut also allows you to transition from one scene to another. An example of this here shows a shot at sea, cut into a shot in a club abruptly.
Another technique is the dissolve transition. This is a gradual fade from one shot to another, as seen here in Rocky II. It is used to imply a difference in time between two shots, allowing the audience to know what time has passed. The fade transition, commonly used at the start or end sequence of a film, usually shows a black screen fading to the beginning shot, or at the end it will fade to black. An example of this is at the start of a film and the end of a film. This is a very simple transition used to give the audience an understanding that the film has begun or has come to an end.
The wipe transition, famously used in Star Wars, is a technique where one shot replaces another by travelling from one side of the frame to another, or by using a shape. Not that commonly used anymore, but got the job done back then. The point of view shot, aka a POV. This is a short film scene that shows what a character or subject is looking at, represented through the camera's perspective. I've personally used this shot in my music video Forever, where you can see the victim through the eyes of the villain.
A shot reverse shot is a film technique where one character is shown looking at another character and vice versa. Since the characters are shown facing in opposite directions, the viewer assumes that they are looking at one another. Watching this clip shows cowboys staring at each other as the shot reverse shot shows their face looking in the opposite direction. The cutaway shot is the interruption of a continuously filmed action by inserting a view of something else. It is used to establish the location in which the current scene is in, or used to adjust the pace of the current action. An example of this here shows the button on a telephone to slow down the pace of the action.
So how does editing provide the audience with information? Well, editing is a form of storytelling. This means that it delivers vital information to the viewer, which makes the media or story much easier to follow, and therefore more enjoyable. It also uses techniques, as listed earlier in the video, to highlight certain aspects in the film, which may be more of importance than other subjects.
How does editing withhold information? Well, editing can withhold information as it can be used to manipulate the audience's perspective of what's about to happen by building suspense, as seen here in The Silence of the Lambs. From an audience perspective, we assume that the agents are going to bust into the building that the man and his wife are in. However, we soon realise that they are at a completely different location.
How can editing be done with rhythm? Multiple techniques can be used in editing to make the film appear as if it's running in rhythm. For example, cutting to the beat can be used in particular music videos. This makes it easier to follow and more enjoyable for the audience.
As seen in this video, cutting is used in time with the video and follows his lip syncing.
Bell bottoms. Bell bottoms.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, chicken.